That was Black Sabbath, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. You've heard me open the show with that one before. That's absolutely one of my favorite tunes of all time. By the way, I'm your host, George Garner. This is the Haunted Cabaret. Sitting around the table with me, as always, Chuckles the Clown, Nurse Misery, over there behind the production table, Tony Jones.
And I like when you start the program off with that song because it's 5 minutes and 43 seconds long, and that gives me a chance to urinate.
Glad to oblige you.
I already did in my
in
pants.
between shows.
Now, if you want, I've refrained from putting on the playlist some of the longer metal songs. I mean, let me know when next time you need to urinate, take a dump, and puke all at the same time, and we'll do a little War Pigs.
In my radio career, it's also Rock Lobster and also Planet Claire from the B-52s coming in at 6 minutes and 50 seconds long.
I didn't know Planet Claire was that long. I know Rock Lobster is, but
Yeah.
Planet Claire is that
Planet
long?
Claire has that big build-up to when they actually even start making any music.
How about Iron Butterfly, Garden of Eden?
Oh, man.
Inagata Davida?
Yeah,
Could
that
make a
thing's flipping long.
steak during that.
I'll tell you, listening to that song, it makes me want to hit myself with a sharp object. It really does, especially when you include. Well, there's two Inagata Davidas. There's one that was radio friendly that lasted about 4 or 5 minutes. They omitted the central drum solo, which really sucks, by the way. And I hope I'm not offending any flower children that still have a couple of brain cells left, that still listen to things like this show. But yeah, the drum solo. Actually, we could come up with a whole Haunted Cabaret about lousy drum solos in 60s and 70s music. We really could. But I'd rather talk about something else. On Chuckles' show, we started talking about, Chuckles had lists. 10 best, we were doing video games and, 10 best video games, his personal preference, other lists. So, but then somewhere during the music, between then and now, we started talking about really bad science fiction movies. Really bad ones. The kind that, like I said, during the music, you watch the movie to the end because you can't believe what you're seeing. You're fascinated by the awfulness of it, and I don't use the word awful in a good way. And there's a lot of them, but I'm not talking about things like Toxic Avenger. What's Nurse Misery? Problem?
We're looking at these.
What are you doing?
We're looking at these
it
top
wasn't
movies.
Me for once.
Top
It
movies.
was
Yeah,
Chuckles.
top worst sci-fi movies, and I've watched almost every one of them.
I just kind of
And
read
I
the
kinda-
title of it and almost died a little.
And I kind of enjoyed them.
Now this list is from who?
It's probably the same guy. It's called Games Radar, but I kind of enjoyed some of these movies.
All right. Well, you know what? We're gonna let's start with this. Let's start with a random sampling of worst of off the internet. What's the site and what do you got there?
It's like I said, it was Game Radar.
Right.
I've never heard of this one. Maybe you have. Nuki.
All right, let's stop right there.
Yeah.
Now, talking about bad science fiction movies, I'm not talking about things like Nuki. I'm not talking about things
the
like
hell is
Toxic.
that?
I'm not talking about things like Toxic Avenger. I'm not talking about things like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. In other words, movies that were made to be bad.
Like Sharknado.
We're talking about movies that cost tens of millions of dollars at least to make, have big name actors in them, have big name writers scripting them, were produced by people like Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and they still, against all the odds, suck.
Was the 8 one that Spielberg put out?
It was
what one?
9.
No, that's not.
Well, you didn't like that either.
No, that's not science fiction, you dope. Get off this table.
If you want to
Go in
start
that
out,
room.
if you want to start out with Steven Spielberg, I mean, to me, one of the most awful never mind science fiction movies, one of the most awful movies of all time is the Steven Spielberg remake of War of the Worlds, starring Tom Cruise.
That was pretty bad.
I shouldn't have mentioned it. Tony Jones is behind that desk. He's having gastro problems right now.
All that movie was people running and screaming. It was like
I until you said it, that's why I just gasped because I blocked that movie out of my. I went to my happy place during that.
That is one of. I'm telling you, if not only is it the worst science fiction movie, I'm going to go out on, this is the Haunted Cabaret, I deal in absolutes here. I'm going out on the proverbial limb and say that Tom Cruise's War of the Worlds is the worst science fiction movie ever made in this universe. And I'm including other races on other planets. Anybody that might have filmed anything in this universe, that movie is the worst movie ever made.
Now, as a broadcasting fan, which we all here are, and as radio fans, as a radio nerd, what War of the Worlds was and what it did for radio and modern broadcasting and modern technology is something so dear to me to see it butchered like that. And those guys were sitting around that room thinking that was awesome. That this was going to be a huge movie.
Yeah, that movie had everything. It had Tom Cruise, who, by the way,
it had Nuki.
If anybody wants to crucify Tom Cruise upside down, I will hold the nails.
He'll be first in line?
Yes, he will be first in line. But I think the thing that makes that movie the most wretched is that they filled it, so they thought, with significant allegory and social commentary. All through that movie, like Tony said, they really thought they were accomplishing something. There was all this allegory to the war on terror and the war in Iraq. So in other words, it wasn't bad enough that we had Tom Cruise in. And by the way, Tom Cruise is in every scene in this movie.
You can't get away from him.
You cannot get away from him. He is in every scene. They rewrote the story of War of the Worlds to put Tom Cruise in every scene. And not only is Tom Cruise in this movie, but just so you realize how awful and excruciating it really is, Dakota Fanning plays his daughter. Dakota Fanning, how old is she in this movie? I'm not sure. But all she does, and for those of you who have blocked it out like Tony or have mercifully never seen it, she sits there wide-eyed and shrieks. She shrieks at the top of her lungs, like ultrasonic shrieking.
Oh, so she's a perfect actor for Field of Screams.
Yes. Field
There
of
we go.
Screams she belongs in. Yes, but she rides around with Tom Cruise shrieking. And then, we could talk about this for the whole show because
I'd rather not. I mean,
we're
that's
not.
just-
No, I said we could.
Yeah,
we
we
are
just
not going
lost
to do
like
it.
500 listeners just from that.
No, we didn't because
We only have 2.
because those listeners, we might only have 2 after because your show precedes this one.
Oh, you.
Oh, wow.
But is the only way we would lose. Keep in mind though, the only way we would lose listeners criticizing the Tom Cruise War of the Worlds is if people disagree with us. Is there anybody in this planet that likes Tom Cruise's War of the Worlds?
Scientologist. And I have 45 hate mails from Scientologists that I'll be forwarding to your mailbox.
Let's see. That will be John Travolta. Oh, L. Ron Hubbard, yeah, who's probably stuffed and preserved somewhere in the School of Scientology. Oh, which brings me to another one. John Travolta. That rings a bell. He was in a movie called Battlefield Earth.
Oh, I remember that one. That was bad.
I'll tell you. Tony Jones is not having a good time right now.
No, neither am I.
I actually liked that one.
Oh, what? You're out of here.
You what?
Because I was little when it came out, and I thought it was funny looking.
What, the movie or John Travolta?
The entire thing.
Yeah, John Travolta.
Oh, it was funny looking. Yeah, it was.
I was just entertained by where all of these things went, because they had so many random stuff on them.
Uh-huh. Okay. Leaving that one.
I
So-
apologize. that is bad.
That's third would be, and I think this has got to be on everyone's list. I don't see. Actually, ordinarily, I like disagreement. You know what I'm saying? I like to take the contrary point of view. But when it comes to these movies, I hate to say, I think I'm in the minority of most of them, especially with this. Is there anybody that likes Waterworld?
Yes.
No, see, that's 2. That's strike 3. You're out.
That's strike 3.
Well, that was strike 2.
I can't count.
Chuckles, I'm working on having your divorce papers drawn up
Yeah.
right now. I've spoken to the legal department.
very
What
bad
is-
taste in movies as a kid. I
Why?
thought it was entertaining because I liked to swim and there was a lot of water. I thought it was the coolest thing
That's
ever.
all that was in the movie. There was water.
That's all it
And
took
there
to
was
make me happy. I was a
Kevin
very
Costner.
simple child.
Now
There
we
was
were
two.
on Chuckles Crypt. We were talking about the total bomb that was the Super Mario Brothers movie. 1993, Dennis Hopper was in the Super Mario Brothers movie, and then in 1995 he was in Waterworld, which, as we were talking about off the air, literally I suffer from. Well, I suffer from many things, but one of those things is insomnia. I would literally put that movie